right. Hello everyone. We come back to a day really far into the first year of Strixhaven. It is currently the 79th day of Quarter 4. It is the day after finals week is done, and the start of a couple week break. The temperature is cool. It's going towards the end of the hot season, so it's starting to get a bit colder for your tastes, Felyn. Um, and there's no wind and just a couple clouds in the skies and the two bright suns warming Arcavios' surface. And I would love for you to walk me through, if you are going to do anything on this morning before meeting up with Elaney to go do a pretty big event where you are going to see where they are from and meet their parents.
Yes. I do think Felyn is going to be leaving Uli with Motiva, and is doing that whole over-concerned mother thing with like a big list of like how to care for him.
That's fair. He is a bat. You know, it's very much like you have to do these things. You cannot treat him like a dog. You know.
He needs to have his insect lunch at exactly 2:30.
He has to stay warm and bundled up like a little baby.
Yes. And otherwise, I think she's trying to make today a very low stress day.
Mm-hmm.
So after that, I think she's starting out today in her casual clothes, but I think she I like to imagine she did actually ask Elaney about what attire would be fitting and went out of her way to try and get something.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the Theros clothes.
Yeah, I can imagine it's very easy to the idea of like something inspired by like Grecian drapery or like peplos and stuff like that, and like chittens is like a very common design element. I feel like it's very easy to get a hold of something like that, and it probably would be legitimately really cheap. So
Yes. So she has that, just kind of bundled up, because she doesn't feel comfortable walking through campus in it. So she's changing into that for later.
Yeah, fair enough, fair enough.
But otherwise, she'll just go. She's leaving her hair down today. She's not doing her normal morning beauty routine.
That's really fair. I doubt it would hold up in the water.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So you definitely do that, and you kind of get everything in order, and you figure out what you're taking and what you're leaving. Probably pretty intentionally traveling light. Um, and eventually, before long, Elaney would sort of come up and either gather you or check up on you. I feel like Elaney would very specifically, in this interim moment, probably almost seem like they're coming to collect you, but then like you're still like getting ready, and so they're gonna kind of like shadow you around as you're putzing around, which I think is a very Elaney thing to do. I think that's very common for like days when you guys are meeting up. Yeah, so if there's not anything else you want to do, I can go into the teleportation scene.
Whoa.
I would like to ask, like, for prosperity's sake, is there any items you are attempting to take with you, um, or are you just not going to be bringing like any of your usual items since it is underwater?
It is underwater. I feel like I don't know if there's anything she has that she would feel comfortable bringing underwater, because she doesn't have a lot of waterproof things.
That's really, really fair. I just wanted to touch base on it just in case. I also wouldn't trick you into being like, you brought all your stuff, everything's ruined. I just think it's fun to know. You know what I mean?
Oh, she was bringing her religious symbol, but
Yeah, of course. That's like your cross necklace. You gotta leave that on all the time.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So you bring your holy symbol and your new outfit. And eventually, Eleni kind of like ushers you outside. Um, as you guys have started getting more and more comfortable using teleportation scrolls, it's always kind of easier to find like a more open area. No risk of like interacting with any other sort of magical effects and that sort of thing. And also, it's kind of nice to watch the sort of landscape you're in shift. And very specifically, Eleni has given you the spell scroll, as they're always slightly damp. Um, but they go to hold both of your hands before you read it off. And they are very specifically going to wait until right before you read off the spell to give you a kiss.
Ah. Felyn will read the spell with some blush on her cheeks.
Delightful. Do you want to give me the first roll of the game?
Yes. What am I rolling?
I would love you to roll me an Arcana.
I'm gonna roll with my wave dice that I'm using for this session.
Wow.
That went a million different directions, and it ended up in a bad spot. 15 total, though.
That's not awful. So something that is fun that I think is really fun to illustrate. How do I word this with a 15? So you have noticed through your interactions with Eleni and even being physical with Eleni, that because of the nature of what they are and the kind of being that they are, there are moments when you, as somebody who is very arcanely like schooled, you kind of pick up that there are natural ways that they use magic almost without thinking. And it is something that you have picked up before when kissing Eleni, but it has never been something that you've really pieced together. But right as you go to sort of meld out of your body and sort of fractal, you see the scene around you change. And it's a bit more, I don't want to say harsh, because you guys are starting to get really used to it, but you are going from a kind of cold but very dry, sunny area to almost dunking into water without the segue into it. And it is a very startling feeling, as the water here is also very cold.
Ooh.
And I would really like for you to walk me through how you think Felyn takes that transition.
Rough.
Fair enough.
I feel like logically she knows, like, okay, it's like ocean water. It's going to be cold. I need to expect cold. But it doesn't matter that she knew it was gonna be cold, and she's still like, ugh.
Yeah, that's really fair. Do you want to make me, let's be a little spicy. Do you want to make me a fortitude save really quick?
Oh my god, I would love to. Whee! 17 total.
Okay. It's almost like a chain reaction of you're still being like held pretty firmly by Eleni's hands in yours. And you kind of gain this weightlessness, It's very cold. It's now, I don't want to say pressing on you like it's a really harsh pressure, but there is now a pressure that air naturally doesn't have. And you almost like pick up a breath in shock as your eyes also have to deal with like the sort of light stinging of salt water. Um, but as you kind of go to gasp, um, you see that Eleni almost looks excited as you do that, and you feel that you can breathe in the water without any difficulty.
uh,
It does taste really salty though. I mean, you're so for real. It is a
yeah,
surreal
yeah.
experience.
Felyn is gonna like take like a test inhale exhale, and then is going to look to a lady and like squint at her but smiling, and is just going to say, "A lady, was that Kisonia perhaps magical by nature?"
I think that Eleni kind of gives you almost like a coy smile and says, I don't know.
Gonna give them a quick kiss on the cheek and say thank you.
Of course, you are my guest. It would be very impolite. But, and you see, in this sort of interim moment, Eleni is mostly making sure that you, like, are adjusting fine. And as you kind of go to actually take in the scenery around you, I feel like that is almost more rocking than the experience of suddenly being underwater. You guys are both sort of idly floating. If you try, your toes can touch sort of mossy white stone. As you see, it almost has like this tiered architecture as you are in front of a building that you would describe as a temple or a palace, and behind you is this sort of sprawling city filled with merfolk and fish, sort of like living together. Um, you see that it is very common for an eel or jellyfish to swim right past you. And as you're sort of taking this in, and Eleni has kind of realized that you're like not immediately gonna die, Eleni sort of flashes you a grin and goes to let go of your hands and look away, and almost in a way of like childlike wonder, but also in a way that in another situation this could be like embarrassing or out of touch. They go to almost like call out to the space around them, I'm home, and then they go to swim sort of towards the entrance of this sort of temple by kicking off on the stone around them.
Felyn is gonna try and follow.
Awesome. Just for flavor, I would love for you to roll me an athletics check, just to see how well you do.
Oh boy.
I love checks. They're very fun.
Oh, sexy. 17.
17, awesome. Your lessons have definitely come in handy. You would not necessarily win any races, but you are not really floundering at the idea of moving without touching anything. There, of course, is sort of like railings and almost like traditional stairs leading up to this building that Eleni is going to. So you can find places to touch down, but you don't really need them as much. Eleni, though, does this thing that I think is really cute where it's like they will swim almost impossibly fast in front of you and then sort of like double back to you and then like go forward again. Um
I,
yeah.
I am the NPC on Eleni's escort mission.
Yes. This is the exact vibe as whenever you are about to feed our cats and they run forward knowing where you're going, but they need to check to make sure you're coming with them. And there are like something that you pick up. You're a particularly perceptive person. Is that as you're sort of doing this, Eleni isn't really stopping to interact with anybody and is keeping up the pace, but there are like people or humanoids at the very least who like stop and like watch the two of you go past or like seem to almost talk in the wake of you and Eleni. As you sort of come into this big sort of cavernous, I would almost call it a hall. Or even like a foyer, but it's this big open floor plan with this sort of domed ceiling with windows at the top that allow creatures and people to swim in and out. And as you come into this building, as you're in the city, there's kind of this sort of ambient lighting that does come from the water around you. But inside the building where that light is not like present, it is lit by idly floating jellyfish that seem to kind of stay on the interior of this building specifically. So as you kind of go through these twists and turns and up these stairwells that Eleni sort of uses walls to kick off, you go through this building. And I'm actually gonna have to pause really quick. I have to do something. Yeah. Obviously, since Eleni is almost leading you in a direction, I know there's not like technically that much that Felyn can do if Felyn is following, but I would love to ask, do you think that Felyn is feeling a particular way being in here, or like if Felyn is kind of like stopping to look at things, or like realistically, you could even approach like the numerous humanoids that are kind of swimming around in here.
Yes. I think for the most part, Felyn is just looking and just being in awe because she's never seen anything like close to this. I don't think.
Oh no, not at all.
Yeah. I feel like alongside Eleni being a fucking insane in the water, part of the reason why Felyn is falling so far behind is also just she keeps stopping without realizing it just to look at shit.
I definitely can imagine. And Eleni never goes too far.
Oh. Hello?
Hold on one second.
Oh.
Okay, sorry. My mic did something weird. But not only is like Eleni insane in the water, but like the way that Eleni is moving around this space is incredibly interesting to watch because you almost get the vibe that they don't have to swim. You know what I mean? It's almost like they are moving as if it is somebody who has like flight or like levitation spells. It is almost like they can move effortlessly through this water. And only occasionally actually using their physicality to push themselves forward, which I think is very interesting.
They don't need to go through the water, they are the water.
It's true. And as you sort of follow, you pass these sort of like vaulted halls, these side rooms, these like this sort of palatial building of all ancient white stone with moss sort of symbiotically growing on it. And these sort of decorations of coral and pearl and glowing bioluminescent creatures, and it's almost, well, it is. It's magical. It's grander than life. It is a place that feels awe-inspiring but strange to be in as a mortal, you know? And eventually you sort of get to this sort of groupings of rooms that sort of have that same sort of aesthetic to them, but it looks almost like, I would compare it to like Jorhassian like sitting rooms. It's sort of like a big room with the intent of having a lot of individual places for people to spend time in or converse in. These sort of sunken stone like couches. Calling it a couch is incorrect because there's not cushions, but you know what I'm getting at. With Eleni kind of speeding past this sort of like merfolk Triton kind of person. Another kind of person that I'm sure you've never seen. I don't know if they exist on Exandria.
They kind of do, but they're not on land.
Yeah. Oh hell no. So this means the only merfolk you've seen are like the like 2 teachers on Quandrix that are merfolk. And Eleni speeds past them almost to the point where like the water spins them around as they whoosh past. And they go to call out, Grace, and sort of stops and stares at you specifically as Eleni rushes forward to 2 figures that look incredibly similar to how Eleni looks. Figures that are almost translucent, but creating their own light. And these sort of flowing bodies where each piece blends into the next. One, a more feminine figure that is sort of more greenish blue, and then a masculine figure that goes more towards like an inky indigo color. And I'm going to send a picker actually for the merfolk. I could not make a picker for the other 2 because making one for Eleni was awful, and I was telling that to Ash. I was like, I want to so bad, but I literally like can't make ones for them. As this merfolk kind of stares at you, and as Eleni goes to almost like call out, and this sort of like not even saying anything, but this sort of like noise of like elation, as the 2 figures look, and the masculine figure almost goes to like jump up is incorrect, sort of like swim up to get a better look at them as they sort of come together like gravity. And he goes to say, Eleni, you're done with school? It's only been... It hasn't been that long. You're done with school? And they kind of like swim around each other, kind of like... I hate comparing Eleni to animals all the time, but like 2 dogs excitedly like sniffing and checking on each other. And the merfolk next to you goes to call out, it's been a year, and the masculine figure is like, it's only been a year and you're done with school? I would love to know what Felyn is doing right now.
I think she's swimming up but keeping a distance, and it is kind of just smiling, assuming that this is, you know, a loved one of Eleni's, and just letting them have their moment.
That's very sweet. As you go to kind of swim up and keeping your pace, this merfolk is swimming up to you and keeping pace with you. It is very easy in these rooms to give people a lot of space, and that's why like the closeness of like these figures to Eleni, as they're almost like whirling around each other like schools of fish. But this merfolk is easily within 2 feet of you. Go ahead.
I think whenever Felyn has like gotten close enough and isn't like making to move anywhere anymore, she's just gonna turn to the merfolk and wave and say hello.
Yes, hello. Welcome. And you see this merfolk go to like squint at you in a way that's hard to read as they kind of pick over their words. And they go to say, welcome to, Ketafos. May I inquire your name? And title, preferably, if you have one.
Yes, my name is Felyn Sarai of Den Sarai. I she at this point I feel like she's kind of, sorry for the fucking joke, floundering. Uh, and kind of like darting her eyes over to Eleni because she's not entirely sure what to do in this scenario, and is just kind of gesturing to them and saying, "I'm with Eleni."
I see. Okay. And they go to like nod as if that explains things, but you can tell by their face it also doesn't explain anything to them. As you guys both are really awkwardly not knowing how to interact with each other. And that's whenever you kind of see Eleni go to kind of grab the faces of the two figures and give them both a kiss on the cheek. And they go to say, Mother, Father, I have taken a lover. It as sudden as that sounds and as bold as that sounds. And now, both of these figures are now looking to you as the merfolk almost goes to swim like half a foot away from you. And I don't know how to describe this necessarily, but it's almost like they're looking at you, but the feminine figure is still speaking to Eleni. That is like, how do I? What word do I think that they would use? I think, okay, sorry, I had to look something up, but I really think that she would say it. I think that this feminine figure kind of is looking at you and goes to swim closer, but is talking to Eleni and is like, "Oh, you brought back a concubine." I'm sorry, again. And Eleni goes to swim over closer and is like, "No, mother, a lover. Felyn, come here."
I feel like the second that they said fucking concubine, Felyn just fucking coughed. And is just gonna start swimming up and say, hello.
The feminine figure in particular goes to swim up and says, "Hello, Felyn? Felyn, was it?"
Yes.
And she goes to kind of swim idly around, like almost like circling you, like Eleni and the more masculine figure was. And she goes to like touch one of your ears, and she's gonna kind of say to Eleni, "Why are her ears so long?"
That does make Felyn flinch away.
Fair enough. And you see as like the masculine one comes over and is like, she's purple, but I don't see any scales. Darling, where are your fins?
Oh, sorry, I am not from here. Actually, where I am from, I had never even seen the sea before.
Never seen the sea. How sad.
Yes, I was very thankful to get to see it with Elaine.
Uh, I think that they kind of both I think that they both kind of continue to like examine you, and I don't think it is in a way that is malicious, but it probably is in a way that still feels kind of strange. Um uh but after the first time, they don't try to touch you again. But Elaney would go to swim up behind you and put hands on your shoulders and is immediately like almost gushing about you and say like, oh, she goes to school with me and we came to school together, and she is also dedicated to a god of intellect and knowledge. And they kind of like go to like gab a little bit about it in a way that like people who don't understand do, like, oh, maybe an aspect of Thassa. Oh yes, that sounds lovely. And that sort of thing. And it's in a way that I think it's like they're very excited to see you, but you can see some of the same traits you see in Elaney in their parents.
Aww.
Yes. And you see after a second, Elaney almost goes to jolt up, almost like pushing off of you to go up a little bit, and says, I have to introduce her to Thassa. Come, we have to go.
Oh, okay.
And Elaney is going to speed off, leaving the other two to sort of animatedly chatter. And you can hear one of the last sentences you hear them say to each other is like, oh, do you think that she is going to stay here? Oh, we'll have to get a room ready, or like, oh, we should tell the others, and that sort of thing. And Elaney is going to kind of, this time swimming while holding your hand, is going to start taking you up more steps, and it's going to actually take you to the roof of this building. And Elaney is sort of continuing to gush and is like, oh, like, I have to introduce you to her. She was very supportive of me going off to school when I told her about Strixhaven and the invitation, and you would love to meet her.
And what was the name again?
Thassa.
Thassa. Okay. Thassa. Okay.
Hey, Felyn.
Uh-huh.
You know what's really funny about this name that I'm pretty sure you and Ash both recognize? Felyn would recognize this name.
Mm-hmm.
This is Elaney's deity's name.
Yeah. Felyn is gonna look like surprised, and is going to say, oh, meet her?
Yes.
In person?
Well, if we're lucky, then she'll show up in person.
Huh.
But she visits all the time. There's a spot up here. And Elaney kind of stops you both on your sort of speedy swim, and has to kind of use their body as an anchor so that you don't continue with the momentum. As you come to the roof of this building, which is flat, most of the ceilings inside are kind of vaulted or domed, but this is specifically flat, and it's the highest point of this sort of diagonal city. Because as you were swimming behind you, you can see the bright blues and white and green of the city and the swimming merfolk and all of the fish. And in front of you is a drop-off into dark, deep indigo water. And despite how full this place is behind you, you are standing in front of a patch of water that is so vast that it is hard to articulate. And at the edge of this roof is a statue. I will show you a picture of what this statue looks like. Give me just a second. It might take me a minute to find it. I don't think I saved it on accident. And you see a statue of a figure that looks like this. And the only difference between this image and the statue is that the figure's eyes would be closed. I would love for you to tell me if Felyn is doing anything in particular at this moment, as Eleni goes to call out into this unfathomable void Thassa's name.
I think Felyn is gonna grab onto Eleni's arm and whisper to them, is there any traditions or etiquettes that I should follow, or?
Oh, you're so right. I forget. Come. And you see, with great difficulty, as you guys are underwater, Eleni goes to kind of pull you down to sort of have your knees on the water. And it's a bit difficult, but you guys manage decently enough. And Eleni goes to bow their head and sort of lift up their palms, directly upwards, as if they had something in their hands, they were offering it up. And Eleni is actually going to start sort of speaking a prayer in a language that you're not familiar with, but they would have, you would have heard them say snippets in. And I would like you to roll me religion, and I have to roll religion for Eleni.
Ooh. Sexy, sexy, sexy. I have to fucking math. 27.
Oh my god. You sure are a cleric.
I have a plus 11 to my religion.
That's so slay. You both sit there in front of this statue, and you feel a heaviness in the water here that you did not feel in other parts of this area. And there is a compulsion for you to open your eyes. Would you follow it or would you resist?
Follow it.
You go to open your eyes, and at this point, the prayer that Eleni is saying is becoming sort of less and less formal and more familiar in the way that you know Eleni's worship is, where Eleni now is sort of singing your praises and telling Thassa about Strixhaven and their classes and how they met you and how she would really like you, how you as Felyn would embody some of her most ardent ideals and that sort of thing. And as you open your eyes, You see that the statue in front of you, the eyes are still closed. The woman decorated with crab claws and fins and tentacles, holding a bident out triumphantly, is still. And your eyes have a hard time acclimating to the darkness. But you can see in the distance a figure. The easiest part to tell from the rest of the gloom are the red that decorates a figure that looks similar to this statue. And the figure is not close and not particularly big. But you, as somebody who has a certain level of intellect, can tell that for her to look the way that she does where you are, she must be massive. As she looks at you all, both from the gloom, and by the time you blink away the salt and look again, she's no longer there. And Eleni goes to kind of put their hands down and say, well, I suppose better luck next time.
Felyn is like death gripping onto a lady's arm right now.
Yeah, tell me how you're feeling.
Wild.
How does Felyn feel about the idea of being able to meet and interact directly with the deity as a cleric of a deity that does not do that?
Fucking insane. I feel like when she like saw and realized what she was seeing, she like muttered a prayer to the Luxon, just.
Interesting. What do you think she said?
I think it was just like a general like thank you for how do I word this? So something along the lines of like thanking them for granting the possibility for this to happen. For her to like be here and to see this fucking god.
Okay. Don't worry, that's noted. Yeah. I think unless Felyn would want to spend more time up here, I think that Eleni would mostly just chit-chat with you, and would feel comfortable staying in this space basically as long as you are. But that's basically every written scene I had for this. We're about at 45 minutes, so if there is any particular interactions you would like to have, either with Eleni, with the parents, with that merfolk that you saw, you can spend time looking around the city. I think that Eleni would show you. But I would love to hear what you're doing since I yanked your chain for like 50 minutes.
I do think Felyn spends a while here and is going to like freak out at Eleni of like how she saw and like oh my god, this is crazy. Parentheses positive, parentheses affectionate. It's just gonna talk for a while. But after she calms down from that fucking high, I do think she'd want to ask Eleni more about their parents and who that merfolk person was.
Yeah, definitely. Eleni would talk about it. I do definitely think that if Felyn is like, oh my god, that was so crazy, I saw her, I think that Eleni would kind of like almost grab you like by the face and be like, I knew that she would like you.
Aww.
They would tell you the names of all three of those characters. And they would also talk a little bit about like the roles that they play. So like Elaney would talk pretty openly about this concept of being like made for a role, born for like a role. And they would outright say that like Hypatia was made to be like the sort of regal queen to rule over this city, and that Erastus was made to be a sort of protector of the people for this city. And that Elaney was made specifically to be like their heir and beloved by the people. And that is like how they would describe it.
Ooh. Here, let me write this down. I do think Felyn would be a little bit confused by the way that they talk about it, and is going to specifically ask, made for?
Yes. Me and my mother and my father were made specifically by Thassa. We are her creations.
Eyes go wide, hand on her face, and just being like, you are... You are divinity.
Elaney would correct you and say we are Nyxborn. We are made of the stars of Nyx and from Thassa's primordial waters. And you see like Elaney is almost like seeming like they're trying to like remember like lessons or things that they were told growing up, and they go to gesture to sort of this sort of huge drop off in the ocean and say, this is Thassa's domain where she how do I word this? Thassa is an inventor, a proponent of change and seeking perfection. And this is where Thassa lives to make her most beloved creatures. And we were made to rule Ketafos.
Okay. I do think Felyn looks very obviously a little like gobsmacked.
Yeah, fair.
And she's gonna be speechless for a little bit and is just gonna... Ooh. I think she's gonna take Elaney's face in her hands, and is going to mutter in Undercommon, just like, thank you for this blessing.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I think she's just like staring at Elaney now.
I think that the minute you put your hands on Elaney's face and you start saying things that they don't understand, I do think that Elaney is the kind of person that would immediately kind of go to like not understanding the weight of this for Felyn necessarily, but like obviously I think internally you are experiencing the weight of the divine in this sort of concept. But Eleni is gonna kind of lean forward and give you a couple kisses, in a way that is sort of really affectionate, and says, if if Thassa likes you as much as I think she does, you know, you could have a role here too.
Someone's gonna kind of laugh in disbelief, and is gonna say, "What role would I even have?"
I guess I don't know. I think that would be up to Thassa to decide. But I think at the very least, an attendant of mine, or a consort, or that sort of thing, at the very least, could get you a really nice life here. At the bare minimum, of course. You could do a lot more than
that. She would laugh at that again, I think. And we'll just say, well, if Thassa ever decides to grant me a role, I will be very honored.
Of course. I'll ask her next time for you, just in case.
Is going to take Eleni's hand and say, okay. This is my mind is going a million miles a minute. This is enough of this. Show me your home. I want to see everything.
Of course. And I think that Eleni would get very excited to show you. And I think that Eleni would essentially take you on the grand tour. And as you guys sort of leave the sort of palatial temple / home of Eleni, you go more amongst the sort of merfolk, the Triton, the sea creatures, and it's this very, I would call it a beautiful society, where not only is the cityscape and the landscape very fantastical, as well as the people that live in it, they have this sort of coexistence that I think is very beautiful and fascinating to see, especially as somebody who, as Zavine, did have to deal with class disparity. As Rosohna does have sort of very strict, I wouldn't say strict because you can move around in them, but they're very defined sort of like class differences, depending on how much money you have and where you live and that sort of thing. And you don't really see any of that here. In a place where you would see shops and food vendors and people who make a living, a lot of the, not economy, because it's not the exact same thing. You see more so than need to be told that it is a sort of, you know where to go for things that you need, and it is very easy for you to get them, as opposed to having like a place that needs to thrive on trade and mercantile and things like money, in a way that is sort of interesting, but I feel like for some people hard to grasp. And as you're sort of exploring, temples to Thassa on every corner, you see this sort of like ambient light that was coming down from the direction of the sky. It's so far down that you can't really see exactly where the surface would be, but there is still ambient light that comes down. And almost as if there is like a switch, you see that light sort of dim for only a couple moments before it looks like the entire ocean sparkles with stars, like a night sky. But Eleni would just show you around and have a good time, and would try to get you to pet random sea creatures since you have never seen the ocean.
Felyn will gladly try to pet anything and everything.
Nice.
I do think that while they are here, Felyn would ask about if there's any place to get any trinkets, knickknacks, souvenirs.
Oh, yes. I think that Eleni would tell you yes, and would probably kind of take you around to areas that seem to have like artists and crafters and the like. And you see in real time as Eleni goes to barter with these people. And they are like reverent, but they are not like just giving away stuff for free to Eleni, which I think is a nice thing to see. And I think Eleni would get you a gift, but I would love if you would tell me if you're looking for anything in particular. There are things made of pearl. There are sculptures that seem to be almost like plated with these like mosaics of like mother of pearl, um, uh, uh, shaved coral, a lot of sandstone sculpture, macrame knotwork, and that sort of thing. Little gemstone fish.
Little gemstone fish. Aw. I think Felyn is specifically looking for things for. I said that and I realized how many people she's gonna try to shop for. Didn't intend for gift giving to be a love language of Felyn's, but here we are.
But here we are.
Here we are. She's gonna try and find something for Motiva, Ashan, and I'll say the twins.
Okay, cool. Okay, so 4 things. That's not too bad.
Yes.
Awesome. I think... One second.
Oh, she's also... Okay, hang on. No, because you mentioned the jewelfish. She's gonna get one of those for Giselle.
Nice. Oh, that's cute. That's really, really cute. I love that. Hell yeah. You can definitely do that, and I think that Eleni's gift to you is gonna be... Elena's gonna swim up to you as you're sort of like shopping around, and is gonna show you specifically this, which sort of sways gently in the sea breeze, but you think could also be a really pretty wind chime.
Oh!
And it's made out of sea glass.
Oh my god!
Yeah, and like obviously I can give you more ideas for like stuff, but you can also just say in general like, oh, I just get a gift for them that they would like, and like if you want to think of specifics you can, but I can tell you what this artist would ask of you in return.
Oh?
Because as you kind of go to be like, oh, I want to get like these things, people are giving you interesting looks as they don't have elves disease. But it's of that same sort of curiosity that you saw from Eleni's parents. And it seems like merfolk are more interested in interacting with you because of it. And as you go to tell them like what you want and ask for the price, this merfolk, a sort of like older woman, goes to actually pick up a sort of a box tied up in a little like rucksack, basically, and hands it over and is going to instruct you to drop something off for her, like do her an errand, essentially.
Oh.
Yeah.
Felyn will agree to this. Where does it need to be dropped off?
Yeah, she would give you elaborate directions, and because you can swim above buildings, it doesn't take as much time as it would in Rosona. But it's basically on the other side of town. And you come back, and she asks you next to sort of help her with something. It's a little hard for me to exactly think of it, but basically like something's stuck in my house. My back hurts. You do it. And after you do 2 tasks like this, she will give you all 5 of the items for free.
Oh my god!
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Delightful.
Yes. I like Ketafos. I think it's really cool.
Yeah! I'll lay in.
I'm also going to tell you a fun fact because I think it's really fun. And I don't know if Elaney would outright mention it, but I think it will be like mentioned at some point in your stay here. The reason why the light changes is Ketafos is actually a really, really unique location in Theros. During the daytime, it is on the mortal plane, and at nighttime, it is actually in Nyx, the realm of the gods.
Oh my god.
Yes. Because it's really, really common for you to be interacting with somebody and them to be like, oh, you know, if you have to go back up topside, you should stay the night, like have dinner, like go back in the morning. And if you go back up there, nothing's gonna be up there.
Holy shit.
Yes.
This place is breaking Felyn's brain.
I believe it. Felyn is a pretty regular ass dude, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hold on, I'm gonna the cats are yelling, 1 second. Alrighty. How's Felyn feeling? How's Felyn doing?
Riding a fucking adrenaline rush. And having a great time while trying not to think too hard on the god stuff, and also being elated by it.
100%. This older merfolk woman is giving you a little like macrame, like not work little bag to carry all of your little artworks that you got.
Oh.
Because you do not have any pockets. Your booty ass is out in this guy.
True.
But Elaney shows you how to tie it to the little rope on your peplos. So now you have a little purse.
Wow.
Yeah. Sorry if Elaney hasn't said a lot of substance yet. 1, I think Elaney is all vibes all the time, and 2, I am actively breaking your brain every second with how this place is.
I'm loving it.
Nice.
Yeah, I can't think of much else that Felyn would specifically like ask to like do or see aside from just exploring. Would probably want to talk more with Elaney's parents, just to continue the getting to know them thing.
Yeah, definitely. You would get the overall vibe that Elaney's father Erastus is very sort of jovial and very casual. Him and Elaney specifically will kind of go on these sort of like conversational thought circles where they're just like yapping at each other. And Hypatia is a bit more quiet than that, but very curious, and probably asks I don't want to say it in a bad way, but like probably ends up asking a lot of like personal questions, just because you are very different than anyone that she has ever met.
Felyn will do her best to answer them.
Nice.
Yeah. And Felyn's just ready to stay here for as long as Eleni wants to stay here.
Hell yeah! You guys have a great time. I think that Eleni would probably stay here for like a good while. I think Eleni in particular is like really excited to show you around. And Eleni would actually mention that this is the first time they've been home since going to Strixhaven. So it's exciting.
Why?
Yeah. And then I think that like to sort of close out your stay, I do think that Eleni probably before wanting to go back, would probably go back up to the sort of statue of Thassa, either with you or by themselves, and kind of spend a decent amount of time up there, after all is said and done.
Delightful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we can pull this sort of little mini session to a close. Feel free to tell me if you have any ideas on what kind of gifts you would buy your friendos. I love shit like that. I love flavor.
Yes, I was thinking about it. I was curious. Did they have any little musical trinkets?
Musical trinkets? I definitely think so. I think that I feel like my go-to idea for like a musical trinket or a musical instrument here would be like in my head I am imagining them as like little like crystal like sticks that you can like strike against each other to make like a ring, like almost like a tuning fork situation.
Ooh.
But they also probably could have like legitimate instruments. It just would have to be like not string and not woodwind instruments because water and sound.
Yes. I think she'll get the tuning fork situation for Motiva.
Hell yeah.
Have to think more on what to get everybody else.
That's totally fair. If you want, I'll go ahead and end the session so I can upload it and we can take a little break.
Woo!